So do you hate your neighbor yet? Do you turn on the news and find yourself aggravated by people who look different than you and believe different than you and have different views than you? Do you find yourself filling with rage more and more? Do you sense this isolation that's going on in this country? There's epidemic loneliness, people's anxieties through the roof. You think that's just a coincidence? It's by design. It's by design, because people who are at war with each other are very easy to control and deceived. And that's why Christianity is such an affront to those in power. Because if we're loving our neighbors as ourselves, if we're putting the needs of others before our own, this country looks completely different. But what they do is they isolate us, and they have us thinking that anybody that doesn't look like us or believe like us or vote like us is the enemy. And nothing could be farther from the truth. You know, I just finished a 7-state motorcycle trip and talking to people and stuff. Most people are exactly the same. Most people see what's going on and they're really worried, upset, frustrated. And most of them feel completely powerless. That's where the church needs to rise up. We need to be the light in a dark place. We need to be a little bit more compassionate and a little more understanding. You know, years ago, I was in a racially mixed motorcycle club in Los Angeles. And one night, me and another member walked into a liquor store because he wanted to get something to drink. Now, this guy was an older guy, but he was a big, scary black guy who looked like you wouldn't want to fight him with a baseball bat. I mean, he was just that guy. So we're in the liquor store, he makes his purchase, and we turn to walk out. And as we turn to walk out, the door opens and 3 men walk in that are members of the Bloods. It's a small liquor store, so you don't walk in and walk out without brushing up against each other. See, in the motorcycle club world, that's called a mud check. How are you gonna handle that situation, right? Nobody shows fear. Everybody's making eye contact as we walk past each other. And we stopped outside and we were standing by our bikes, and the guys came out and they came up to us and they said, "You guys are racially mixed." And we said, "Yeah." And they said, "Yeah, our organization isn't like that." And we talked about, you know, motorcycle clubs are based on the club, not the color of the skin. Once you're in the club, you're in the club. And we talked a little bit more, and it was a very cordial conversation, because these were grown men. These weren't troubled youths. These were dangerous men that you needed to take seriously. And as we got ready to leave, the guy that I was with looked to the guy that was doing most of the talking, and he said, "Hey man, can I ask you a question?" And the guy said, "Sure." And he said, "Can we quit killing each other?" And for a second, that guy's facial expression completely changed. And he said, "Man, I want to, but it's hard." And then his face went right back to where it was before. And I remember in that moment thinking, this guy's reality is so much different than anybody I know. And it's so easy when you don't live in other people's worlds to look at them and say, why don't they just do this? Or why don't they just do that? And I think if you get out of your comfort zone, ask yourself this question. Look at your cell phone. Look at your Facebook. Look at your whatever you use. Look at your circle of friends. And I would bet you most of them look like you. Most of them believe like you. Most of them vote like you. And until we're willing to engage people that are different than us, until we are willing to engage people with the gospel and show them that the gospel of Jesus Christ is certainly not the poor examples that they see on television, how are we going to change anything? You know, when I was pastoring in Los Angeles, someone said to me when we were talking about loving your neighbor as yourself, And he said, well, who's my neighbor? Not somebody in the Philippines. But I would say Jesus answered that question in the story of the Good Samaritan. Because if you think we don't like each other, check into how the Jews and the Samaritans felt about each other. You can see that where Jesus is talking to the woman at the well and she says, you're a Jew. What are you doing talking to me? Our people don't talk to each other. And he broke the cultural barrier. He spoke to her and brought the good news of salvation to her. If we don't start being willing to be the ones that are going to break those cultural barriers and talk to people that are different than us and learn to listen to people, it ain't going to get better. The world's gone completely crazy. The church, now more than ever, needs to be a light in a dark place. In an unloving, anxiety-filled, fearful world, the peace of Jesus Christ is becoming rarer and rarer. And if you're a Christian, you're a keeper of that. And you need to go and proclaim the gospel to people. Stop thinking that you know how to fix everything and everybody. And realize everybody's reality is different, but ultimately the gospel is the same. If at this time we're not known for the fruits of the Spirit, our love, our patience, our kindness, our goodness, what are we going to be known for? We're just going to be like everyone else. Think about that, because look at things and realize everything is not as simple as it looks. Those people are not your enemy. They're victims of the enemy. Amen.